Okay, so let's get into it. I did Elizabeth, which was released in 1998, which is it's definitely a film. I personally thought it was a good one. For me, it's one of those historical dramas that you watch and like by the end of it, you're like I need to know more about this period of history. And Kate Blanchett in the role of Queen Elizabeth I is absolutely magnetic in my opinion. Like, she doesn't just play Elizabeth, she becomes her, which it's incredible watching Queen Elizabeth evolve, not only physically but emotionally, as she shifts from a young woman just learning how to be a queen into this kind of iron-willed monarch who has like no problem standing her ground even when it costs her everything. And this movie takes us through the early years of Elizabeth's reign, starting from her ascension to the throne in 1558. It's a time of a lot of political instability, with England in the midst of religious turmoil and various factions vying for control. And like very early in the film, it talks about how like they have no money, they have France and Spain against them, they have Mary Queen of Scots. Everyone is talking about her role, like her rule, Elizabeth, whether or not she's like a heretic. And I think it does a really good job. Like, this film does a great job of setting that scene of turmoil and also painting a picture of a young queen who's not just learning how to rule a country, but also how to survive in a world where people are coming after her. People want her dead simply for religious views. And I think like in this film, Queen Elizabeth, she doesn't seem like the Catholic hater that she may have been. Not that she was a big hater. Well, yeah, sort of. Like when she's talking to her sister Mary in the beginning, she she seems very much like when she's getting interrogated, not when she's talking to her sister, but she was very much like people should believe what they want. And I think that that's definitely a contrast to the what was going on in England, where Protestants were being burned for being Protestant, which was the beginning scene in the movie, which was it was really confusing starting off the movie, and just people were being burned. I was caught off guard. And it's definitely like I think it also shows like Elizabeth's struggle to survive in a world where women didn't really get the luxury of making mistakes, and I think Blanchett really shines here, especially in scenes where you see Elizabeth having to navigate this complex political web, surrounded by people who'd rather see her dead than see her succeed. And I think she uses her womanhood to her advantage almost when she is trying to get the unity bill passed, and she's making fun of herself as a woman, but while also like using it to as a strength and like acknowledging the fact that these people think less of her because she's a woman. And I think it does a good job of really showing how she uses her womanhood as queen and how she has to work within that, including the speech or this part where she says like I will have a heart of a man, which this is kind of not relevant, but it kind of reminded me of Lady Macbeth when she's talking about unsex me, which Shakespeare and Elizabeth are like around the same period. Like, they're alive during the same amount of time there. And I just really think like that shows like when we have a strong female, it's kind of like, oh, like unsex me, or oh, heart of a man. So I think that shows like how it was more difficult for Queen Elizabeth as a woman. And visually, I thought this movie was stunning. The costumes were gorgeous. I mean, they were just beautiful. I think they reflected the progression of the movie very well, because we have Elizabeth starting off in like lighter colors. They were looser. They showed more skin, which I think shows how she was a young woman just learning how to be queen. She was kind of naive. And like as we move on, her costumes are darker. They're more reserved. Like, they're not showing as much skin, which I think shows like her evolution into to the monarch that she became in the future. And I think the set design too, it's like I almost feel like they're trying to put us directly into the past, which it worked. Like it was very dark and brooding and oppressive, kind of like the political environment Elizabeth had to work within. And you have this sense of danger everywhere, like the halls are big, and it's just like she feels so small in them, which I felt was kind of like, it just felt like there was a lot of danger around, which there was. And like the tension is like you could cut it with a knife. It was very tense in that scene. One scene that like really stuck with me is her coronation, which I put it around in my thing. Why am I forgetting my slides? Which I think is done in this beautiful way, which it's very like looking at the picture of her real coronation dress and that one, it's very much puts you in the place. It's very accurate. And like it's just beautiful. Like she's dressed in gold, her hair is flowing, and like you can almost feel like the weight of the crown on her head as she takes her first steps as queen. And I just think it's a really iconic moment, and the use of lighting and the way they set up the scenes really helps convey just how isolated Elizabeth must have felt at times. And like for like the crown being heavy, like the moment like it's put on, she fixes it a little bit, which I kind of like, looking back, I kind of thought of like that to represent how she has to fix her surroundings in order to not get, overthrown. And talking about that, like the political intrigue is just wow. Like the scheming, the backstabbing, the alliances and betrayals. It's very much a Shakespearean drama, except it's real. And this movie really shows how treacherous life was in Elizabeth's court. People like the Duke of Norfolk are constantly plotting to undermine her, and the tension between the Catholic and Protestant factions is just unrelenting. And like personally, like Geoffrey Rush as Francis Walsingham is a real standout here. I thought it was really funny when he locked the bishops away during the vote. Like I thought like this dude he doesn't care. Like he definitely plays this cold, calculating spy master who'll go to any lengths to protect Elizabeth, even if it means angering the church. And there's a ruthlessness to him that really adds to the film's edge. Like, you can tell he's not just her protector, he's like a man of action, and he's willing to do whatever it takes to ensure her survival. And I mean, like, in the movie it shows him being the reason Mary of Guise died, which isn't accurate because she just died of natural causes in real life. But, I thought it was really good movie-wise to show the steps he was willing to take for his queen. And, like, moving on to historical accuracy, the movie does take some liberties. Like, if you're a history buff, there are definitely moments where it's like you're gonna raise an eyebrow. The timeline is condensed, some events are fictionalized or exaggerated for dramatic effect. Like I said, the whole assassination of Mary of Guise, which happens in the movie, didn't happen in real life, is just pure cinematic drama. There's also the romanticized relationship between Elizabeth and Robert Dudley. In reality, there's little to no evidence they were actually romantically involved in the way the film suggests, though they certainly had a close and complicated bond. If you're looking for a documentary, this is not it. But for a dramatic, character-driven film, I think it really works. That being said, there are still a lot of accurate aspects. The film captures the religious turmoil of the time really well, especially Elizabeth's attempts to create a middle ground between Catholicism and Protestant. No, I'm not going to. Not today. With her religious settlement, it also accurately portrays the immense pressure she was under, which not just from foreign powers like Spain, but from people within her own court who wanted her to marry and secure an heir. And the fact that she ultimately chose to remain unmarried and put her country before her own personal desires is central to the film. It is something the movie handles with respect. And the virgin queen persona, I feel, is really explored deeply in this film, though it's clear that Elizabeth's decision to embrace it was just as much as a political strategy as a personal one. And like, on terms of the supporting cast, Robert Dudley brings a sense of unrequited love and loyalty, But honestly, I felt like he gets lost in the shuffle a bit. He's definitely overshadowed by the political drama happening around him. And Richard Attenborough as William Cecile, Elizabeth's right-hand advisor, who plays the role of like the pragmatic, cautious figure. He's not a show stealer, but I thought he was definitely essential to the story. So the supporting cast I felt was pretty good. Like, in my opinion, I thought they did their jobs very well. In terms of pacing, the movie definitely starts off pretty slow. It definitely picks up as it goes along. Like, I found myself personally wanting to skip a couple parts. Like, it felt like they were always dancing, and it's very tiring. I'm like, we can stop dancing now. Like, I'm good. But I think it really builds the sense of tension and stakes, and like how people are working behind the scenes, and she's just very naive. She's just out dancing. And I feel like by the end of the film, I was totally invested in Elizabeth's journey. Like, the final moments where she steps into the full role of the Virgin Queen are powerful and haunting. It's like, it's this moment of ultimate self-sacrifice where she becomes the symbol of England, but also loses her chance for love, family, and personal happiness in the process. So, would I recommend Elizabeth? Absolutely. I think it's a thrilling, visually rich historical drama with a killer performance by Cate Blanchett, which I feel all her performances are, but that's just my personal view. The story's gripping, the visuals are amazing. It was gorgeous the entire time. The costume's gorgeous. The political intrigue will keep you on the edge of your seat. Like, the Spy Master, I was watching everything he was doing. It was so cool. Like, I want to be a spy master. Like, he was cool. It's definitely not a perfect retelling of history, but it's still a good film. So if you're into historical dramas or just looking for a movie that'll suck you in, I think it'll definitely keep you entertained. But it's not just like the history books. So if you just want history, I would find a different movie. But I think the drama it adds really shows the essence of her early rule, and I think it's really fun. So I would definitely say I would watch it, and I think it's a good film. So thank you for listening to me ramble on.